surrounding yourself with people who believe in you is so important. If you have this dream that you really want to make happen, the support has to be there. And you are the first person that believes in you. And it takes just one person to support you to make that happen. Just one.
You just heard actor and performer Gabrielle Ruiz, a dynamic talent in film, Broadway, and dance. Gabrielle grew up in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, a Mexican-American who is proud of her roots and her journey. She is perhaps best known for her roles in the Broadway musical In the Heights and the TV series Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Welcome to Harmony Talk, a place for dreamers and doers. We explore how passion becomes purpose and how ordinary beginnings grow into extraordinary paths. Harmony Talk is sponsored by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business and a champion, really, for people who dream big and follow through. I am your host, Lisa Champeau, speaking to you from the Pocono region of Pennsylvania. Gabrielle was encouraged early on by public school arts programs, but she made her way to New York the hard way. Auditions, rejections, more auditions, propelled by a belief in herself that did not break. Today, we follow Gabrielle from her small border community to a moment when Lin Manuel Miranda recommended her for a breakthrough role in television. Gabrielle shows us why you should never abandon your dream, especially when you keep hearing the word no. So, hello, Gabrielle. So good to have you on board with Harmony Talk.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me. I love what your sponsor says about dreaming big and following through. That really resonates with me.
And I think your story will show that. You know, I read a quote somewhere from you where you called your mother after being rejected for a part and you were very upset. And your mother said, "Do you want to come home?" But you replied, and I'm paraphrasing here, "Oh no, I just need to cry it out, go to sleep and try all over again." Now, how does one do that? And probably more than once. Where does that come from? And maybe it comes from your roots. So maybe we should start there.
Wow, that is such a good question to start with. I feel always knew I wanted to perform. I just didn't know how. I loved performing. I just didn't know how to continue out of high school. So I remember asking my dance studio teachers, because I was really a ballet dancer, tap dancer, jazz dancer, a studio lover, enthusiast. I loved being in the dance studio. I mean, I'm 41 now, and I still love being in the dance studio when I can. It's just my heart and my soul. But it was not until I would say college when it really clicked that I could get a paycheck for performing. So I feel like a late bloomer. Like, let's imagine ourselves back in 2001. I just was getting into seriously thinking about what can I do with dance out of high school. I really would love to do this. And I only had been to New York City once with a family vacation in middle school. So there was a glimpse of professionals performing on Broadway, but it didn't really click until I so happened to audition for a summer stock position as a resident company member. And those company dancers at a regional theater are performing in the ensemble all shows for the summer. And those shows are performing every other weekend. So the ensemble performs 5 Broadway quality shows in 10 weeks. So the turnover is really fast. The collaboration needs to be very positive and constructive and successful. And they're bringing in this Broadway talent to be the lead. So we get to just window shop this experience over and over and over. And that's when I knew that this is how I wanted to do it. In my school at Oklahoma City University, I majored in dance performance, and my mentor, Joe Rowan, always would tell us what we do is show business, not show begging. You put together the combination of just loving to perform all day long, receiving a paycheck for it, and my family coming from a salesman background. My grandfather had a sales produce business for a very long time. I understood the business side to keep the drive going, because it's a salesman job sometimes when it comes to auditions. And the amount of auditioning we did in college where we learned how to get calloused in a way or understand that rejection is part of it. It's not no, it's just not this or not yet. And there becomes such a repetition about it that you learn how to balance your emotions, your nervous system, and you learn whether you really, really want to do this. So I'm very grateful for my college education, because I feel now as a college educator, the age of 19 to 22 is a vastly different growth of who you are when you start to who you are when you end. for so many reasons of maturity that I'm so grateful that I learned that in college. So I was able to bring that to me. And then it didn't feel very different once I moved to New York and started auditioning professionally.
So when you say show business, not show begging, you mean not begging for the part, so to speak. This is a business.
Yes, and I very much applaud all of us, actors that are restaurant waiters and babysitters, and you can get stuck in the wallow of letting your performer side ask for permission or let that be a secondary passion with your confidence. And the survival job is important, but to still create a balance with your life and with your work and with your side hustle, that is when the business side really has to command balance. So when the opportunity does present itself, you're ready to take off and launch.
Well, let's just talk for a second about Edinburgh and then, which I guess is a town of about 100,000 people. The nearest big city I read somewhere is Brownsville. So it's very far away from Broadway. And then you went to Oklahoma State University. So you're Mexican American. And traditionally, there haven't been a lot of parts for Latino women on Broadway and so on. So how did you go from Oklahoma to New York?
I am very grateful for the educators in my life that I was lucky to learn from. Like I said, the dance teacher that owned the dance company, Melba Huber, she was a tap historian. So she was very, very passionate about making sure her students also learned tap dance, not just, no offense to all the nutcrackers out there, but not just nutcracker for your whole time in the dance studio, just doing that ballet that is wonderful during the holiday season. But she didn't do that. She wanted us to learn other ballets as well as tap dance. And she recommended that I audition for Oklahoma City University. And that college, which I tell my younger clients with coaching, with college coaching and career coaching, that there is no perfect college for everyone. The perfect college that you get into and that you're meant to based on your budget, your scholarships, your location, that is perfect for you. And I have to say, fate is what helped me find my way to New York City because the summer theater experience for me was mind blowing. It was game changing. I understood what it was like to work as a professional. The quality of people that would come in to Music Theater Wichita were in New York. They were living in New York. This was their job to come to Wichita and be Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And I was able to witness and watch and observe and ask questions. And then when I was performing a chorus line at Music Theater Wichita, I was luckily Deanna Morales. I was able to be casted in that lead role. And one of the other stars' husbands is a casting director. He heard me sing the song and he says, "Call me when you get to New York." And he gave me his business card, Steve Glaudini.
First connection.
I held on to that business card and I sent him a letter, a cover letter, some newspaper clippings. This is really before, websites were your calling card and Instagram was your portfolio. This was the original way of pitching yourself. And I sent maybe 9 other mail outs of that information. And he was one of the 2 that did call me back. And it was a lot of phone calls back and forth to remind them when I was in town. I kept at it. He said, "Call me every week." And I did, Lisa. I did not back down. And that's the salesmanship of business. And then you just keep that objective side of knowing that you are your biggest fan. You are the president of your own company. You are the CEO of Gabrielle Ruiz walking into that room. Because in the end, it is about talent, but it's not all about talent. It's about how you present yourself and how you follow through.
Another guest that we had on this show once said it's not just about talent and where you are, it's also about hustle.
Yes, ma'am. It's about the hustle. And like I told my mom and what you said when you quoted me, that I cried and she said, "Mijita, do you want to come home?" And I said, in tears, I said, "No, I just need to cry about it. And then I'm going to just try again tomorrow." And that has been so natural for me to give it my all and then fall down and just be present in that failure is so important. I teach that in my career coaching. It's so important to be present in your failure because that just means you're trying, which is wonderful. That's an achievement in itself. But if you don't let yourself feel that way, there's no chance to let it go. And tomorrow is another chance if God gives us that day. And it's always a blessing to be so able to do what you want to do as a career. I feel so lucky.
It certainly has paid off for you in many ways. What about your Mexican American roots? I mean, did they help you, hinder you, play a part at all? I mean, certainly in a chorus line, it probably didn't make any difference whatsoever. But in general,
I've got to say, that's a great question because there have been recently some new biography movies on Netflix, I feel, about Selena Quintanilla. And she was a Tejana star back in the 80s and 90s. And she was unfortunately murdered very young in her career. So Selena Quintanilla is from Corpus Christi, which is about an hour and a half north from where I'm from in the Rio Grande Valley. And it was a day equal to when Princess Diana died, to when JFK was murdered. It was a day when the world stood still and you knew exactly where you were. That was what it was like for me in the Rio Grande Valley. She was such a huge impact on not only the culture where I come from of South Texas, but also women performing. So there's a lot that really makes sense in my growing up that she and her family share, is that being Mexican American in South Texas is rather difficult to feel like you can straddle the line of being Mexican and American. Because a lot of my generation does not really officially know Spanish. And my father, to this day, he's like, "Are you teaching your children Spanish?" And I'm like, "Dad, you didn't teach me Spanish." I I know the basics. Like I can keep up with Dora the Explorer, but like having a conversation is going to take years of work and like living in Mexico. And so when I went to Oklahoma City, I was kind of the only Latina in the room, in the dance studio, or I was just the minority. I was not the minority in South Texas. So I learned that I had a very cool difference in comparison to my other colleagues in college. But it really wasn't, Lisa, until In the Heights on Broadway, my Broadway debut, when I was performing with native first generation New Yorkers from the Dominican Republic, from Puerto Rico, from Cuba. And there's this one song in the show that talks about everyone's flags and how proud they are. Hasta la bandera is the line. And it's like, praise, lift up your flags. We're so proud to be who we are. And the amount of pride, I guess, is the word. I didn't really understand it until I did that show and until I sang that 8 shows a week, and how proud I was and am to be a Mexican American. There was always just more of a not enough, a struggle. You're not doing enough. You're not white enough. You're not Mexican enough. You're not enough. I always felt like I was running uphill trying to place that perfectly in my identity. And everyone else in the Heights who was DR, PR, Cuban, and Mexican, and Venezuelan, like they just were so proud, period. And that's when I understood how to be proud to be Mexican American as a performer.
is that where you met Lin Manuel Miranda?
Yes, I met Lin Manuel Miranda in the first wave of auditions when the off Broadway show of the Nights was going to Broadway. And I'll never forget, I was singing I'm Every Woman, Whitney Houston, in the room. And I sang my 1632 bar cut. And he looked at everyone around. He was like, "I just love that song." And he just like started singing it with me. I heard Dolly Parton does that a lot in auditions. Like she'll come up and she has her guitar in the room, but Lynn's like that too. And Andy Blankenbuehler, the choreographer, really had a nice chat with me because I was on the road at that time with a chorus line. And so I was able to be welcomed. It was such a warm welcome into the family of In the Heights. And then Lin-Manuel came back for the closing season. I would say for like the last 6 weeks, he was able to be in the show with us. I was an understudy for 3 of the lead roles, so I was able to really play with him. And just like, what a wonderful human. Because, like what you said in my introduction, he did recommend me for the show that launched my Hollywood career.
Which we're going to talk about in just a second. But was In the Heights before or after Hamilton? I'm not exactly sure.
Yes, it was before, and he talked about Hamilton backstage for a long time, and we got to hear just the idea of him reading the book and being so moved by it, and it was just a mixtape for a while. And I feel while maybe it was after In the Heights closed, it was that summer. We closed in January, and it was that summer that he had some readings, and we all got to go and sit and listen to the infancy, the first beginnings of Hamilton. So I'm very proud to be a part of those.
I'm sure there were many, many people in the cast, forgive me, but he recommended you for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And so how did that come about?
I don't know if I've ever really talked to Lin about it. Now that I think about it, this is fun to share. That year when Crazy Ex-Girlfriend happened for me, that was, I would say, August of 2015. That whole year, starting in January, Lisa, auditions were happening for Hamilton, Aladdin, and On Your Feet, the Gloria Estefan musical. And I'll never forget, in the elevator of all these audition rooms and buildings, we all got to get on the one elevator, all got to sign in, put our ID, blah, blah, blah. We go up, we go into these holding rooms, we're all dancing together like it's the watering hole. And everyone's saying hi and catching up, just like what you'd imagine in a dance movie. It's real. And every elevator conversation that season was, Gabrielle, you're doing On Your Feet, right? And I would be like, no, I'm not. I'm auditioning for it. I've gone in for it about 10 times. Well, you should be in On Your Feet. You're doing On Your Feet. And I kept saying, no, I'm not. And there came a point, it was that year of that many rejections with On Your Feet. And they just couldn't place me. I was just not right for that show. I wasn't the right fit. There's so much talent in New York City. My goodness.
But everybody thought you should be in it.
Everyone else thought I should be in it except the creative team. But I remember feeling okay with it for the first time in my career where I knew my value. I know what I can provide, especially as an understudy, the amount of talent it takes to be able to do a lot more things than just your own role. And the ego, not letting that get in the way. And the amount of people I knew that were booking it were all my friends. And so you're happy for them as well. So I'll never forget the final On Your Feet audition. I went in for one of the older lady roles that is like washing clothes at the river. And I told my husband, who was my fiance at the time, I said, they're really trying to make me fit. I'm just this square peg in a round hole. Like, this is it. This is the last time I'm going in for it. Like, I love them all and they love me. And we're all trying, but it's over. Like, it's done. And the next week or the next month, Lisa, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend came into my lap. The script came in. I auditioned for it. I got some feedback. I remember asking Rachel Bloom, the creator of the show, I said, would you like me to sing again on my self-tape? And she's like, I've been stalking you on YouTube. Don't worry about it. I know you can sing. I said, finally, all that YouTube posting came back to me for, a reason. I'm reaping what I sowed.
And Rachel's a stalker in real life too, huh? No.
She really is. Yeah, she's very good at it. And it was Aline Brosh McKenna, the showrunner with Rachel, who later told me that Lin Manuel Miranda recommended me. And so I feel like when I was at the Hamilton Tony Awards party, I thanked him then. And he was like, you did it. And he was just so happy for me. And we hugged and they just won everything. They're changing Broadway. And he still had a moment with me, which was so wonderful. I'll never forget it.
He sounds like a really nice human being.
He really is, though. Like, he actually really is.
Yeah, it sounds like, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Okay, let's talk for a second about Valencia Perez. I mean, I happened to watch a few episodes. So,
oh, good. What did you think?
Thought you were great. You're a yoga teacher and you sing. You're very serious, though, for a good part of the show.
Yes,
and
she does not like humor.
Right. It's sort of a comedy. But your character undergoes, oh boy, a lot of changes. I mean, you start out, you are a girlfriend, then an ex-girlfriend. You don't really like girlfriends, but then you end up having a girlfriend. So tell me about that character and what it was like playing her.
Oh, what a wonderful arc of a character. We just this past fall had a 10-ish reunion concert get together where we performed our songs live again for people in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco. And before I sang one of my songs, Women Gotta Stick Together, I said to the audience, I would say, out of all the Valencias and all the seasons, that season 1 is still my favorite because she's like a mean girl. She's a villain. She doesn't care. I have to say season 1 Valencia is really my favorite because she's just so hung up on herself and wants to kind of just be as selfish as possible. And yes, she learns how not to be selfish. She learns that sisterhood is a good thing. And she learns all these beautiful lessons. But before the lesson is pretty fun to do as an actor because most villains they think they're doing you a favor and they think they're, helping you out with what they think is right and what their agenda is. And Rachel and I got along so well off camera that it was fun to play such a dynamic on screen with her.
And you did a great job, by the way, singing and dancing. I
Oh,
mean,
thank you.
which is your roots, I guess.
And I got to say, there were several Broadway veterans that came and did the show. Donald Champlin, David Hull, Santino Fontana, Vincent Rodriguez III. Like, we were able to bring the capabilities of how quickly it takes a Broadway show to. So, in previews, typically in a Broadway show, you're getting changes from noon to 5 p.m. and then putting those changes in at 8 o'clock for that show. And it's pages and pages of changes and dance and it's changing. So all of that ability of singing, acting, and dancing, I'm really proud to say I was a part of that group that came and made Rachel and Aline feel confident on the quick turnarounds that each song and scene had.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, you've been in several Broadway shows, If Then, Evita, Chorus Line, and TV shows other than Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, One Life to Live, Orange is the New Black, Modern Family. Do you have a favorite?
Oh, do I have a favorite?
Might be Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, I don't know.
I mean, of course, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but I feel like Orange is the New Black. It was so hot when I was doing it. It was changing television at that point. And so when I booked that role, I remember feeling that I had this opportunity like, okay, I can do television. That kind of gave me a sense of validity or a sense of like permission to keep continuing auditioning for more television.
You also play the voice of T. Lynn.
Yes.
Not Latino, she's a Vulcan.
Oh, Lisa
An
Tallinn.
animated Star Trek The Lower Decks, right? I think that's what it's called.
Yes. My mom is a Trekkie. Okay. Let me just say that. I grew up watching The Next Generation, which all the Trekkies say TNG, which now I know. When Star Trek Lower Decks was becoming something, some of the auditions were coming in for this voiceover job. And I was able to audition and have a few callbacks for some of the other leads. And so when Tallinn came through, which is a Vulcan species, I went to a deep dive of Leonard Nimoy and T'Pol and just I've had some luck with like some computer voices, with some AI voices. It was very important to not make her sound like an android or a robot, but she was a Vulcan, which has no emotion, but definitely has a lot. They're very honest and transparent. So I had so much fun auditioning for that. And then when booking, what a gift. I mean, as great as Crazy Ex-Girlfriend has launched my career, to be a part of the Star Trek family forever is something I'll never take advantage of and something I'll enjoy.
You're part of Spock's family.
Oh, live long and prosper. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy to be part of that. To see my name in Star Trek font in blue during the credits, it makes me emotional every single time. And that's not very Vulcan to say.
That is great. And your mother, I'm sure she's happy too. So let's just talk about some of your other work. You are an arts education activist. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, why is it so important to do that? I mean, you appeared before Congress and
Yes, I feel that my degree, specifically at Oklahoma City University, had pedagogy in it. So we learned how to teach dance. We learned how to educate, and I loved it. It was my rocket science. I could sit for hours and write down every single step and talk about every single impediment. If this kid was a pronator or supernator, need to work on turns like that, communicating that to the next generation just in their technique was like rewarding for me. But the fact that I felt like such a late bloomer in what it is to do show business, it feels important to pass it down, to pay it forward, whether the job is a Zoom conversation or whether I do one-on-one career coaching with middle schoolers and their parents, because you're coaching their parents as well. So to share how important it is to include the arts in public schools is what I'm very passionate about, because that is where I learned how to sing. I didn't take private lessons. I didn't know musical theater was a hobby for kids of my age. We didn't have that exposure where I was from. So I do love to pay that forward, specifically in the Rio Grande Valley or for anyone that will listen.
and of course you went to Oklahoma City University, but do you think that you also are speaking for marginalized groups who may not have the advantage of arts education in their local public schools?
I do feel like I'm a voice for them. I do feel like I'm an example that si se puede. Even if you don't want to pursue performing arts as a career or even as a degree, the amount of things that you learn, the teamwork, the spark, the expression, the cathartic feelings that you get after 30 minutes from just having this moment in class is so important for me to teach the next generation and to be the example.
Let's talk for a second about you are also a producer.
I am
The
doing
Randy
it
Andes.
all.
I don't know if you have
Eh.
which is, I think, current. It's a current production. It's a revue, musical revue, I guess you'd call it, with female singers who do everything from the Andrews Sisters to Beyonce. Tell me about how'd that come about?
Yes. We sing iconic hits with vintage lips, is what we say. Allison Mahoney and I did the Broadway tour of Evita together. She was also an actress, singer. And then cut to 12 years later, after moving from Los Angeles back to the East Coast, she asked me to guest perform in New York for her with her show. And I was just so impressed with not only the talent, but her ability to produce this show. And when we started talking about it after the show, she also has a child that's the same age as my oldest. So we're both mothers as well. We just reconnected like we already did 12 years ago, on tour because we were the same age and doing the same things. But now we're in a very different part of our life, very different stage. I asked actually if I could come on and produce the show with her and help her because the brand, the idea, the show, the concept, it's wonderful. She just needed some wind behind her sails, is what I say, and just support because she's also a mom that works late at night like I do and puts her kid first when he's sick and can't go to school and the whole day is canceled. So we understand each other that way. And for me, not specifically living in Manhattan anymore, I live outside of Manhattan. It's a really nice way to stay connected and to like create jobs for women in New York City, period. It's wonderful and so satisfying.
That's great. Also, you happen to mention both you and she are juggling. You're a mother of 2 now.
I am. Vivian will be 2 in this month of January. Mercedes will be 5 this year.
That's a lot. So how do you juggle all that? And are you still pursuing auditions for yourself?
Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. I don't know, Lisa. I really don't know. I have to say, I'm so lucky that I love what I do. Getting back to that, I feel like consuming myself with things that are very, that electrify my brain and stimulate my wants. And if you really want something, you get organized and you surround yourself with the right people and you do it. Nike had it right all along. Just do it. And then when it's too much, take a break. Because I actually did feel a little burnt out in December. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't happen often for me but I listened to it. And I have to say, the balance in my lifestyle of more remote work, thank you to Zoom and all the repercussions of the pandemic. Zoom really changed a lot of my career where remote work is very, very possible than ever. And my schedule basically is mom all day and then producer actor at night. And then you prioritize what you can do. So I say I have to either self tape, record a voiceover audition, or work on producing to-dos or take a producer meeting from 9 p.m. to midnight. It's a lot of water. You got to drink a lot of water.
Yeah. Stay hydrated. Yeah. And of course, you're teaching your children Spanish, aren't you?
Sí.
That's
Claro que sí. Of course I am. I just put on Dora the Explorer. She loves it. She loves counting to 5 in Spanish, I have to say.
Now, what do you hope people will take away from your story today?
I have to give a lot of thanks to my parents. Now, this might sound like a common thing to say, but being an actor, the trope usually goes that your parents are like, why would you do that? You should be a doctor. My parents never did that. My parents were like, mijita, go, get out of the valley. Not because it was a poor place to live, but like there's no performing here. Go and live your dreams. We'll support you as much as we can. Okay, now we can't support you anymore. And I said, great, I want to stay in New York. Okay, let's do it. We love you. If they could come to every show still to this day, they would. And they do when they can. And so to have that blessing that I was not a part of, it was not, I didn't force them to support me, but I'm so grateful that they did. What I would want listeners to take away is surrounding yourself with people who believe in you is so important. And learning to say no thank you to listening to what doesn't work for you. It might sound a little delusional, but if you have this dream that you really want to make happen, the support has to be there. And you are the first person that believes in you. And it takes just one person to support you to make that happen, just one. And then you can multiply that around with what you need. And Joe Rowan, again, my mentor in college, who said show business, it's show business, not show begging. She always would say, love people more than you need them. And it's so true. You have got to give and offer when you can and learn when you should also receive to fill your cup as well. It's a balance, and I hope people take that from my story.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for being with us. If people want to find out more about you or about the Randy Andys, they should visit
GabrielleRuiz.net.
There you go. That's easy enough. Thank you so much for being with us, Gabrielle, and good luck with all your endeavors. Really appreciate it. This podcast has been brought to you by AM Skyer, a third-generation family insurance business and a champion of people who dream big and follow through. I'm your host, Lisa Champeau. Talk to you next time.